Welcome to my show. Thanks for tuning in. Radio Pilipinas English Program TXQTH, Tinang, Philippines, 250 kilowatts AZ270. RXQTH, Ota, Tokyo, Japan. Date 05/10/2020. Time 02:00 UTC, 11:00 JST. Frequency 15,640 kHz. RX TECSUN PL-680. Antenna Apex Radio 303 WA2 passive antenna.
Bayang magiliw sa nakasilanganan sa dibdib mo'y buhay, lupang hinirang, doon ka lang magiting sa nanlulupig. Di dapat sisigil sa dagat at bundok, sa siway at sa langit ng dagat. May dilagang tula at awit sa paglayang minamahal. Ang kislap ng watawat mo'y tagumpay na nagminining. Ang bituin at araw na kailan pa may di magdidilim. Lupa ng araw ng may habit pagsilbi. Aming higala dapat may hanapin ang mamatay ng dahil sa'yo.
The time now is 0200 UTC. Please stand by for broadcast in English.
This is the English service of Radyo Pilipinas of the Philippine Broadcasting Service. We are reaching you on the following shortwave frequencies: 15.640 megahertz, 17.700 megahertz,
And 17.820 megahertz.
from Manila, Philippines. This is Radyo Pilipinas, the voice of the Philippines. Radyo Pilipinas worldwide, dedicated, unfailing commitment to the international Filipino community. From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline, Malacanang.
Good day. This is Dateline Malacanang in review. Philippine President Rodrigo Roa Duterte declared Monday that communist rebels, particularly women fighters, will likely die in a clash with the government troops. The president voiced confidence about the chances of defeat of the rebels in a military encounter after mentioning the death of Javelin Kulyama in his televised address Monday evening. President Duterte had earlier identified the Makabayan bloc as among the legal fronts of the communist rebel group, saying they were part of an alleged grand conspiracy to bring down the government. But the president told the rebels, dreaming of utopia, that this was near possible. Javelin, the 22-year-old daughter of Bayan Muna party list representative Euphemia Kulyamat, was killed in a clash between the military and New People's Army, or NPA, rebels in Surigao del Sur on November 28th. She reportedly served as a medic of the rebels. The military released a photo showing the deceased rebel alongside seized weapons, triggering an uproar from her family. Kulyamat admitted that her daughter joined the NPA to fight the injustices against the indigenous peoples, but asked the military not to use her remains as a trophy. In his speech, the president warned about the possible extinction of the Lumads if these indigenous peoples will support the communist movement before he addressed the killing of Javelin. He told the Lumads to return to their homes, saying they were only being deceived by the NPA rebels. Prior to his remarks about Javelin, the president alleged that the Makabayan, Bayan, and Gabriela are among the front organizations of the Communist Party of the Philippine New People's Army. The Makabayan bloc in the House of Representatives is composed of 6 partyless lawmakers from Bayan Muna, ACT Teachers, Gabriela Women's Party, and Kabataan. Philippine President Rodrigo Roa Duterte on Monday evening said that Davao del Norte will be joining 7 other areas under a general community quarantine or GCQ classification until the year end. In a taped speech, the president said Metro Manila, the provinces of Batangas and Lanao del Sur, and the cities of Iloilo, Tacloban, Iligan, and Davao will remain under GCQ until December 31st. The rest of the country will be under Modified General Community Quarantine or MGCQ. Davao City on November 30th reverted to GCQ following a rise in coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19 cases. Melquiades Feliciano, Deputy Chief Implementer of the National Task Force Against COVID-19 for the Visayas, was tasked to lead the coordinated operations to defeat the epidemic teams that were deployed in Davao City to help in the response efforts. President Duterte renewed his call to the public to observe quarantine protocols such as frequent hand washing, physical distancing, and wearing of face masks and face shields. He also hit critics for questioning the government's COVID-19 response, insisting that a vaccine is the only way to eliminate the virus. Metro Manila mayors earlier recommended retaining GCQ status for the rest of the year. The Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases expressed doubts over further relaxing quarantine restrictions as it may result in a possible spike in cases. The Philippines considers Australia a close partner following its support for the arbitral ruling on the South China Sea dispute in favor of the country, President Rodrigo Roa Duterte declared Monday. The president expressed his gratitude to Australia during an open and productive television conversation with Prime Minister Scott Morrison on further strengthening bilateral relations Monday. Presidential Assistant on Foreign Affairs Robert Borges said in a statement that President Duterte also thanked the government of Australia for its formal manifestation before the United Nations, affirming the arbitral award on the South China Sea issue. Back in July, Australia sent a diplomatic note to the United Nations rejecting China's claims in the South China Sea that supposedly have no legal basis. It cited that the tribunal in the 2016 South China Sea Arbitral Award found China's claims were inconsistent with the United Nations Convention on the Law of the Sea. In a recent regional summit, the president thanked Morrison for Australia's consistent support for 2016 arbitral ruling on the South China Sea. He said Australia's support reinforces our efforts to counter claims and assertive actions that contradict international law, particularly UNCLOS. China claims almost as a resource-rich South China Sea, but the Philippines, Brunei, Malaysia, Taiwan and Vietnam have laid claims to parts of the territory. Australia previously called on claimants to resolve their dispute in accordance with international laws. In 2016, a UN-recognized arbitration court nullified China's excessive claims to the South China Sea, upholding the Philippines' claim to the disputed territory. Beijing, however, has refused to recognize the ruling and has kept its land reclamation and other activities in the contested territory. Malacanang on Tuesday said that President Rodrigo Roa Duterte has no issue in the funds given to the Philippine International Trading Corporation, or PITC, for government purchases, but the economic team is still expected to review the pending projects. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque Jr. remarked the funds in the state corporation are not necessarily sitting idle, but are merely in different stages of procurement of goods. PITC, an attached corporation of the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, handles the procurement of goods and services for state agencies. Roque said in the meeting with President Duterte Monday evening, Defense Secretary Delfin Lorenzana mentioned the Defense Department has allowed 11 billion pesos to PITC for a number of procurement projects which are in various stages of bidding. According to Roque, the Trade, Finance, and Budget departments are expected to scrutinize the status of procurement projects pending at the PITC. He added that for the discontinued projects, the agencies will give back funds to the national treasurers so the president can use it for other purposes. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque Jr. is not interested in running for senator in the 2022 elections. Roque, speaking at a televised press briefing Tuesday, said he actually looks forward to retiring from the government 2 years from now. He remarked from what he has seen with the kind of media reporting and the kind of trolls that the opposition has, he's looking forward to retirement from government service. Roque, on his second stint as the president's spokesperson, said he is also eager to gain back his privacy. He added he has always been a private person and he only became a government employee when he became a congressman in 2016. Roque returned to his old post as presidential spokesperson back in April, more than a year after he decided to seek an elected post. He replaced then spokesman Salvador Panelo, who has remained as chief presidential legal counsel. Roque held the spokesman post from 2017 to 2018 before resigning to run for an elected post in the 2019 polls. He later withdrew from the Senate race due to health reasons. Philippine President Rodrigo Roa Duterte on Wednesday invited Russian President Vladimir Putin to visit the Philippines next year as soon as circumstances allow. President Duterte extended the invitation through new Russian ambassador to the Philippines, Marat Ignaevich Pavlov, who was in Malacanang Palace to present his credentials to the president. In October of 2019, the Russian ambassador, Igor Kovalyev, said Putin had already accepted Duterte's invitation. If Putin pushes through with the visit, it will be his first visit to Manila. Duterte has visited Russia twice in 2017 and 2019. Duterte also thanked Russia for their offer to provide the Philippines with doses of their potential vaccine for the coronavirus disease 2019 or COVID-19. Russia earlier said that its Sputnik 5 vaccine, developed by the Gamaleya Scientific Research Institute and the Russian Defense Ministry, is 92% effective at protecting people from COVID-19 based on interim trial results. In the same speech, Duterte said he considers Russia a good friend and partner. President Duterte also accepted the credentials of 6 other ambassadors, namely Shambhu Santakumaran of India, Claudia Alberto Rojas Rachel of Chile, Italinia Post, Hungary, Imtiaz Ahmad Kazi of Pakistan, Juha Marcus Baker of Finland, and Ahmed Suhabuddin Ibrahim Abdullah of Egypt.
Dateline, Malacanang.
Philippine President Rodrigo Duterte on Wednesday has authorized the Food and Drug Administration, or FDA, to allow the emergency use of coronavirus vaccines and related treatments in the country. He has issued Executive Order number 121, granting authority to the FDA Director General to issue an emergency use authorization, or EUA, for drugs and vaccines that may prevent, diagnose, or treat coronavirus, but with certain conditions. The regulatory practice of EUA issuance aims to hasten the availability and use of coronavirus drugs and vaccines in the absence of available, approved, and adequate alternatives. The Health Department had earlier asked the President to allow the FDA to grant EUA for coronavirus vaccines and drugs that will shorten the approval process to 21 days from the usual 6 months. Under the executive order, the President set the following conditions for the issuance of EUA based on the totality of evidence available, the potential benefits of the drug or vaccine, and if there is no adequate, approved, and available alternative to the drug or vaccine for COVID-19. In evaluating EUA applications, the FDA Director General will have the power to implement reliance and recognition process for the emergency use of drugs and vaccines. The President also allowed the FDA to convene a panel who are experts on drug and vaccine development to conduct a review of data on the safety and efficacy of a COVID-19 drug or vaccine applied for an EUA. The order, signed by the President on December 1st, takes effect upon publication in the Official Gazette or in a newspaper.
Dateline, Malacanang.
Malacanang on Thursday welcomed plans made by some local government units, or LGUs, to purchase doses of coronavirus disease or COVID-19 vaccines, but reminded them that the national government has allocated funds for 60 to 70% of the country's population. Presidential spokesperson Harry Roque Jr. made this statement after Puerto Princesa Mayor Lucilio Bayron said the city government has requested for some 100 million pesos to buy doses of vaccines for their people. However, he noted the possibility of having problems in supply, as many countries would race to acquire doses of the vaccine. Citing vaccine czar Carlito Galvez Jr., Roque said, the government will buy from 4 brands: Sinovac from China, Pfizer from the U.S., AstraZeneca from the UK, and Sputnik 5 from Russia. He suggested using the local funds to purchase vaccines not among the 4 brands already identified by government. Even if the national government has set aside funds for the entire nation, Roque said, he would not discourage other LGUs from purchasing their own vaccines. Earlier, Galvez said the government has come up with a list of 25 million people who will get the vaccine first, including the poor, healthcare workers, police and military personnel, and essential service workers. President Rodrigo Roa Duterte earlier approved Executive Order number 121 on the Emergency Use Authorization, or EUA, of drugs and vaccines against COVID-19. The EUA is expected to speed up the processing time for approval of potential vaccines from 6 months to 21 to 28 days. Philippine President Rodrigo Roa Duterte has sought the help of Congress to address the country's problem with communist rebels. Senate President Vicente Soto III confirmed Thursday that he met President Duterte to discuss issues relating to the Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP, and its arms wing, the New People's Army, or NPA. While declining to divulge more details, the Senate leader said the president was apparently asking for their help to address it. President Duterte, he said, merely laughed when he mentioned in the meeting proposals to criminalize red tagging. Prior to meeting President Duterte, Soto had turned down proposals from the Commission on Human Rights, or CHR, and Human Rights Advocates to criminalize red tagging of activists and progressive groups. He said those offended of being accused of involvement in communist insurgency should just file libel cases, arguing that criminalizing red tagging would be equal to criminalizing name-calling. On the other hand, Senator Anthony Lacson said on Wednesday that he is seriously considering the recommendation to criminalize red tagging as long as it will not violate the freedom of speech and expression provided under the Constitution. During the hearing, he acknowledged that there is a probable danger or harm to the persons being red tagged. In a public address Monday, President Duterte accused the House of Representatives Makabayan Bloc and their organizations of being legal friends of the CPP and the MPA. Soto said he will just wait for the president to announce if there are specific measures that Duterte wants the legislative department to pass about the issue. Philippine President Rodrigo Roa Duterte on Thursday urged law enforcement forces to stay vigilant as the war on drugs continues despite the coronavirus disease pandemic. President Duterte made this call as he led the destruction of 7.51 billion pesos worth of illegal drugs in 13 Martires City, Cavite Province. In a speech, the President lauded the coordinated efforts of the Philippine Drug Enforcement Agency, or PDEA, and the Philippine National Police, or PNP, that led to the seizure of assorted drugs. He said the drugs would add to the more than 56 billion pesos worth of illegal drugs that were seized after more than 180,000 anti-illegal drug operations since the beginning of his administration in 2015. Saying drug traffickers do not rest during the pandemic, President Duterte reminded the law enforcers not to keep their guard down. The need to remain steadfast in the campaign, not only by intensifying operations against drug trafficking, but also by reforming the criminal justice system and addressing the root cause of drug abuse and dependency. President Duterte also plans to work harder to prevent the movement of illicit drugs smuggled into the country by land, air, or sea. The law enforcement forces, the prosecution service, and the judiciary to never waver in efforts to end the menace that has caused immeasurable harm to the lives of users and their families. Tinang does not agree that red tagging or the branding of government critics and activists as communists or enemies of the state is dangerous for those who are innocent. President spokesperson Harry Roque Jr. made the statement after Senator Panfilo Lacson said that he is seriously considering to criminalize red tagging. In his Thursday presser, Roque said, Malacanang does not agree that red tagging is dangerous for the innocent. Activist groups claim that red tagging is used by government as their supporters to harass and intimidate. They added that the act has likewise led to the assassination of their members. In October, Malacanang said that President Rodrigo Roa Duterte does not want law enforcers in the country to be publicly red tagging any individual without evidence and reminded them to just do their job quietly and according to the law. However, this week, President Duterte himself directly identified the Makabayan bloc in the House of Representatives as a front of the Communist Party of the Philippines, or CPP. Roque defended President Duterte's against the Makabayan bloc, saying the chief executive was just saying facts. Government agents like Lieutenant General Antonio Parlade Jr. and Communications Undersecretary Lorraine Badoy, both from the National Task Force to End Local Communist Armed Conflict, were criticized for the red tagging of individuals. Parlade, a military official known to red tag government critics, warned both actress Liza Soberano and former Miss Universe Catriona Gray about involving themselves with progressive groups. He likewise wondered if Manila Mayor Isko Moreno welcomes her country's capital after she ordered the removal of anti-terrorist tarpaulins in the city. Duterte reiterated his call for universal access to COVID-19, telling the international community that it would be a gross injustice to exclude poor or developing nations from the recovery initiative. President Duterte made the statement as he addressed the United Nations General Assembly, or UNGA, for the second time this year at its 31st special session in response to the COVID-19. In his pre-recorded message aired past midnight Friday, Manila time, President Duterte amplified the Philippines' call for greater solidarity and enhanced cooperation to address the challenges brought about by the pandemic. He reiterated his push for universal access to safe and effective COVID-19 vaccines and according to the President, leaving a nation behind in the road to post-pandemic recovery will discredit the values of the United Nations. In his speech, President Duterte likewise expressed strong support for the medical and scientific initiatives forged at the World Health Organization, or WHO, like the COVID-19 vaccine global access, or COVAX facility. COVAX facility, which the Philippines joined, is a mechanism designed to guarantee rapid, fair, and equitable access to COVID-19 vaccines worldwide. President Duterte reaffirmed the Philippines' commitment to contributing to the pooling of global resources and helping other countries without preconditions. And finally, the Philippine government has allowed the conduct of workshops, training, and other similar events in areas under the at 30% venue capacity. In a statement on Friday, presidential spokesperson Harry Roque Jr. said this was the decision of the Interagency Task Force for the Management of Emerging Infectious Diseases or IATF-EIT, during their meeting on Thursday. Congresses, conferences, board meetings, colloquia, conclaves, symposia, and consumer trade shows would also be permitted. Roque said the venues include restaurants in general, restaurants attached to hotels, ballrooms, and function halls within hotels, venues within hotel premises, and mall atria. The IATF-EID has directed the Department of Tourism, or DOT, and the Department of Trade and Industry, or DTI, to jointly issue the necessary guidelines. The task force has also adopted the recommendation of the Office of the Cabinet Secretariat to implement the Safety Seal Certification Program with division SAFE.PH. The IATF directed the DTI, Department of Health, Department of Labor and Employment, Department of the Interior and Local Government, the DOT, and the Department of Transportation to issue the necessary joint memorandum circular to detail the requirements to secure a safety seal, which includes the adoption of the Stay Safe app and the generation of its QR code to be displayed in all entrances. And that concludes this edition of Daytime Malacanang in Review. For Radyo Pilipinas Worldwide, this is Leo Magpaya. Good day and stay safe.
From the Presidential Palace, Manila, Dateline, Malacanang. Upholding the nation's pride by bridging Filipinos all through.
Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like the video. Subscribe to my channel.